and I'll let you know when you can start. Okay, go ahead whenever you, is everyone else ready?
Ready?
Okay,
Yep.
Go ahead. Ben
Okay.
or Jim. Yeah, Ben.
Hello, my name is Ben Martineau, and I am an advocate with Homeless Voices for Justice. Homeless Voices for Justice is a grassroots organization organized by people who are or have experienced homelessness. We seek to empower people experiencing homelessness and poverty, whose perspectives are often excluded from development to policies and politics. We do this through protest, education, positive policy change, and reform. As part of our annual You Don't Need a Home to Vote campaign, we are interviewing candidates running for local, state, and federal offices on the issues that are important to us in our community. Today, we're talking with Carolyn Silvius, who is running for state senate at district number 42.
State rep, district number 42.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Do you want to ask the first question?
Hey, can you please introduce yourself to the voters and tell us why you decided to run for the state representative?
My name is Carolyn Silvius, Carolyn Ann Silvius on the ballot, and I would appreciate you checking that off. I'm running for state representative because I feel that due to my life experiences, that I can bring a new energy that we haven't seen in the legislature, in the state legislature before, and a new passion to the state legislature for change.
Wonderful. Cher, you're next.
Okay. People experiencing homelessness and poverty often struggle to access the support services that they need, including case management and mental health services. This access is determined by public policy and government funding, both for social services and for programs like general assistance. How would you improve and expand access to these critical social services in Maine?
I believe the state needs to chip in a little bit more. Portland can't do it on its own, not without a significant tax rate, and I would consider that an extremely last resort. I think that the state needs to contribute more. I think that general assistance is critical and needs to be expanded throughout the state, not only in Portland. And I believe that these programs are essential to getting people on a better level of living.
Jim, you're next.
Yeah, okay. I am personally in recovery from alcoholism. I've had a lot of assistance from places like Milestone, Preble Street, and Alcoholics Anonymous. Recently, places like the Serenity House, where I spent some time, have closed due to lack of funding, or other providers had to cut services for the same reason. What steps will you take to make treatment and recovery services more accessible to low-income Mainers?
I think we need to go to the federal government first to contribute to the state government, who can then contribute to these very, very essential and worthwhile services. Every one that you named is or was a large milestone in making a quality of life for people. I would like to see more done for women who are experiencing addiction. Right now, as far as I know, there are only 2 facilities that offer long-term treatment for women, one in Augusta and one in Bangor. There are more women suffering from addiction than these 2 facilities can handle. That involves long waits. At that, all the time that the people are waiting, they're still drinking. We need to expand for women particularly, but we need to fully fund all of these agencies.
Jordan, will you ask the next question?
Yeah, both COVID-19 and police brutality have shown us that we need to focus on systemic racism in this country. Black, Indigenous, and people of color are overrepresented in both homelessness and poverty right here in Maine. Sorry. What will you do to dismantle systemic racism within Maine social services? And how will you prioritize the needs of Black, Indigenous, and people of color residents?
What you failed to mention in that question was that people of color and Black and Indigenous people are also overrepresented in criminal contexts. There are more of them in jails. There are more of them being arrested. And I think that one of the ways that we can focus, well, first of all, we need to do some serious studying on the program. We need to listen to the people who are affected, and we need to retrain the police to be more equitable in arresting and confronting the poor, the Blacks, the Native Americans, all the people of color. And I think that money needs to be approved from the state for retraining.
So we talked a lot about SNAP in Homeless Voices for Justice and access to food. And we know that the minimum SNAP benefits in Maine are often $16 a month, and that this isn't even enough to buy a can of soup a day. Barriers to accessing SNAP in Maine include volunteer and work requirements, restrictions on maximum assets, and enrollment in LIHEAP. Do you see reducing barriers to accessing SNAP and increasing SNAP benefits as a priority?
It's absolutely essential. You've hit on my big point that everyone who is entitled to receive food assistance should be receiving the maximum amount that they are entitled to be, regardless of what other programs there are. Making things like LIHEAP a requirement to access SNAP makes absolutely no sense and is more expensive. The reason that people are not getting the SNAP benefits is because it is so difficult to get through all the hoops that $16 or whatever isn't worth it. And I've also spoken not only to the legislature but to groups proposing that SNAP benefit be raised, that minimum benefit be raised to $30. I've spoken that the entire SNAP, the maximum SNAP benefit needs to be raised. Not only the 15% that has been proposed, but the 15% over the cost of living. And then, after that is accomplished, that the maximum needs to be increased again, because food benefits have not kept pace with the rising prices of food. So people receiving SNAP are hampered in getting the nutrition that they need simply because there is not enough.
Ben, I think you're up next.
Okay, Carolyn, throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen different levels of government take several steps to protect renters, including banning evictions and implementing rental assistance programs. Do you believe that Maine should continue to take steps to protect renters from eviction? If so, what should be done? Okay,
that's a two-pronged question. Number one, I do believe that evictions for inability to pay rent, people who have lost their jobs and can't pay their rent, should be, the ban should be continued. However, at the same time, I worry that by the time the COVID thing is over, that they will owe so much back rent that they will not be able to make it up. So part of the process that the federal government needs to engage in is help in paying that back rent, maybe subsidies toward the back rent, because nobody is going to be nobody who has been unemployed for a long period of time is going to be able to catch up without that federal government assistance.
And Jim, you have the last question.
Yeah, I've been working with Homeless Voices Justice for 20 years, trying to ensure that people directly impacted and involved in the policy making that affects their lives, that they are involved in it. So, and that have an equal seat at the table. Please tell us how you would incorporate unhoused people and people in poverty into your decision making as a state representative.
That one I'm very prepared for. I was in Augusta and addressing, this was back when we were working on the Bill of Rights and bringing it to the legislature. And the group that we were addressing, Rachel got up to present her emergency measure, or the Bill of Rights as an emergency measure. The people on the committee that were supposed to be considering it were talking among themselves, laughing, eating, having a hell of a good time, okay? And not listening to a word Rachel was saying at all. And then we got up to speak, the public, the people affected by this decision. And it was even worse. They weren't even looking at us. I think that what we need to do is internal in the legislature needs to be a set of rules for how people listen, so that we know that our voices are being heard. And talking and laughing and private conversations while somebody is speaking is not only rude, it's counterproductive. And I really believe that we need to reorganize the way these hearings are done so that everybody is heard.
Well, thank you, Carolyn, for taking time to speak with us today, and we're excited to share your answers with the broader community.
And thank you for having me.